Good evening, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, and adepts, to the newest episode of Knights of the Nephilim podcast, brought to you by Celestial Oddities Radio. I am your host, as always, Reverend Frater Crow, and I want to thank you for listening in tonight. Whether you are listening live, or you're streaming or downloaded this episode after the fact, I do want to thank you for tuning in and listening tonight. Make sure you click the like, share, and follow buttons from whatever platform you're listening from, whether it be Spotify, Deezer, Spreaker, Castbox, Google Play, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon. We are on it all. So listen where you feel most comfortable, but by clicking the like, share, and follow button, it moves us up the podcast community rankings, allows more people to discover the show, allows you access to our past archived episodes, and keeps you in the loop as new episodes air. So it's always a great way to keep in tune with the show. We bring you something for absolutely everyone that's an occult lover. If you are into any side of the occult, we talk about it from Hinduism to Buddhism to Satanism to Santaria to the poison path to everything in between, Enochian. You name it, we have it on the show. We have a great episode planned for you this evening, so make sure you stick around. I do want to thank everyone that supported the show thus far. Some might have or might not have seen my recent post. We do only have, unfortunately, a few episodes left of at least season 1 of the show. I'm not saying I am returning, but I'm not saying that I'm not. There's always that option or availability. I have to evaluate some things over the next several months or so, see if I can continue to make this show happen, or something we might have to kind of put to bed. But we've had fun so far with the show, and I do really want to thank everyone that's helped support it along the way. We have so much more planned for you from Celestial Oddities Radio, from our other shows that we bring you, other material that we're always airing. There's something for absolutely everyone. If you are new to the show, we do air you an episode twice a month, Thursday nights, 8 to 9 p.m., or actually should say 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's bringing on people from all backgrounds of the occult, from occult practitioners to ritual toolmakers, from historians and theologians to occult authors. We bring them on the show, we pick their brain, find out a little bit about who they are, what got them started on their path, and much, much more. And tonight we have a great guest that I'm going to be telling you about in just a moment. Before we jump into tonight's guest, I do want to thank our sponsors, Limitless Liberation, Goetic Impressions, and also the Telemancer, for all of their help and hard work that they've put into sponsoring us and everything that we do here at Celestial Oddities and on Knights of the Nephilim. All three companies are absolutely wonderful at what they do in bringing you great quality ritual tools at a great price. Between the three of them, you can pretty much get anything you would need in the magic field. But if not, then our tonight's guest can certainly fill in the gaps for, products that she brings you that they don't. So we're going to go ahead and jump into who tonight's guest is, tell you a little bit about her and her company. First and foremost, her company's name is Belladonna's Botanicals, and that is by Jennifer Vatza, a left-hand path, poison path witch, certified aromatherapist, herbalist, perfumer, skincare formulator, and incense crafter. She provides high-quality handcrafted metaphysical and self-care products, including flying ointments and oils, herbal tinctures and elixirs, herbal smoke blends, ritual oils, powders, incense, botanical blends, ritual bath products, fragrances, and bath and skincare products. I mean, folks, if you need anything in that field, she does it all, so you can't really miss out on it. I'm very excited to bring on tonight's guest, Jennifer Vatza. How you doing tonight?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It was a no-brainer. As I tell most of my guests, if you're on the show, it's because I'm a fan personally of your work, what you do, and who you are. So it's always a pleasure to get to hang out and kick it with some really cool people such as yourself.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, not a problem. So how you doing this evening?
Catching up on things. I realized earlier today, looking around because I create all my products myself, so... and I do that out of my house, and I looked at my first floor and was like, well, half my first floor is boxes that need to be unpacked, and the other half is boxes that have been unpacked and things that need to be put away, and everything in between are like orders in the process of being packaged and sent out, or things being made.
No, I'm always very impressed. I constantly see your posts of the things you're getting in, you making and turning around and shipping out your products. You stay very busy. It seems like a pretty engaging operation that you got going on there, constantly at work, fulfilling orders, which is, very admirable.
Thank you. Yeah, very much so. It keeps me busy all hours of the day. Luckily, I have 3 assistants now who are helping me with various things, which is, giving me time to, create some new stuff and make videos for my YouTube channel, and which I'm slacking on, but getting back around to. I just want to create a lot more content, but it's kind of, there's so many moving parts in, managing a business, especially because, looking at where I started at the beginning of quarantine to where I'm at now, as far as volume goes, like I kind of manifested my 5-year plan within less than a year, and I've been struggling to catch up with myself.
That's a good problem to have, though, is this, hey, how long did it take you to reach your 5-year plan? Oh, 9 months.
Yeah. I started my business in 2018, so I've been going for about, the first 2018 was kind of laying all the groundwork, getting all the nuts and bolts in order, all those fun things that come when you run a business, like getting an accountant, setting up an LLC, and doing all that stuff, and getting like the training and whatnot, building my website, the real exciting fun things. So, and then things started taking off more slowly in 2019, but I was doing a lot more like in-person vending events at the time, whereas that had to change in 2020 for the obvious reasons.
Oh, absolutely. I think anybody, whether you were new or old to business, really got thrown for a loop in 2020. And still being pretty fresh on your feet, that had to have been a little bit of a roadblock and a challenge to figure out, how do I still do what I need to do and how I need to do it with things not being able to be shipped as easily. I'm taking quite a bit longer to get to you, quite a bit longer to get to your customers. Certainly something no one was expecting and ever used to.
Yeah, there was a lot of supply chain issues. I still deal with them. Like suddenly it'll be like I use patchouli leaf in a lot of things. Now, I could get a pound of patchouli leaf for $22 forever. For some reason now, no place, I'm down to one place that has patchouli, and it's $80 a pound.
Wow.
So it's not only dealing with supply chain issues, but then all of a sudden something's way more expensive than it used to be.
Yeah, the markup's pretty intense across the field in all supplies, no matter if it be medical, if it be medicinal, different herbs and things that you're trying to reach, or, construction's a big one right now, where anything in a construction field is like 6 times the amount it normally is.
Yeah, I had to have my basement floor redone, and it took 4 months for the tiles to come in.
Oh, wow. Yep, that's what everybody's saying, is it's taken forever for it to come in, for you to get appointed, an appointment to get it actually put and installed, and then the price is just through the roof as far as materials. Not only are they not able to fill the quotas of the material orders, but now I've heard a lot of companies are actually stepping back on the colors that they're offering, because there is so much that they're saying, instead of offering 15 colors, we're offering these 5. Just to make it easier.
Sometimes I run into that with my packaging materials and things like that. It's kind of like, okay, well, I used to get this particular type of box or thing, and they used to be 20 different colors, and now it's like I could get it in silver.
That's it. You're limited. This is what you get. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, it involves a lot of creative problem solving, thinking on your toes, and always knowing like I have my go-to suppliers for things, but then when there's a disruption, how do you fill that void? Or, okay, I've got to switch the product. I've got to switch the bottling on this now.
Yeah, it makes you have to kind of switch up your regular process of doing things and experiment, which could be good, could be bad. You might end up finding you like something more than what you've had before. Yeah. You might end up not having the same quality you had before, but you still got to continue to get orders out. So, it's a challenge that everybody's faced with right now.
Mostly it's just annoying.
It is. And
then there's all the postal delays, which is my least favorite thing in the entire world. I'm like, no, I swear I mailed your stuff out 2 weeks ago. I don't know why it hasn't updated in the system, but,
I ordered what was it? It was a ritual altar cloth that I have for my one altar behind me right now, and it took... I started to get worried. I know it said that it's going to be heavily delayed. It was coming from out of the country, but at this point I started to think I definitely got gypped, and it wasn't cheap. It was like $160 ritual cloth. And I think it took like almost 3 months for it to come. And it was like by week 8 that I'm like, yep, I'm never getting it. I'm like, I definitely got ripped off. And then it finally showed up one day, and I came home and didn't even realize what it was. I'm looking, and I'm like, I wasn't expecting anything, and I'm like, wait a minute. And sure enough, it was the ritual cloth. It was coming from Russia, but the delay was extreme. I wasn't expecting that.
It's right now it's taking, for international orders, it's taking about 2 to 3 weeks for it just to leave the United States.
Yeah, and then once it got to our customs, it was horrible.
To the completely wrong country.
I could see that. Yeah, the Postal Service is having a little bit of trouble right now, I mean, to say the least.
Oh, my God. I mean, I feel bad for, like, the postal workers, because, like, I talk to a lot of the mail carriers. So, like, yeah, we're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, everything... Because not only is it everything messed up with being able to ship the way that you once have, but the other part of it is you have so many more people home now ordering. So many more people shipping, so many more people doing things. So it's just like any type of cable provider, movie rankings and things are through the roof because there's so many more people now watching Netflix. So there's just a lot of things that it's really helped industries and done good for. It's really thrown other ones for a loop and really messed up the entire ecosystem of how they normally operate.
It's really hard for like people to gauge like, okay, I want to order something for somebody's birthday. I need to do that a month in advance.
Yeah, they're used to doing it 5 days in advance, and they're like, "What? It's not here in time."
Then you have random spikes and things like the week everyone got their stimulus checks.
Oh yeah, like ordering out the wazoo. Everybody's
Oh yeah, I'm like obviously everyone got their stimulus checks this week. It was just crazy. And then then the post office gets an extra backup, a glut of packages and stuff like that and orders because suddenly it increased by 50% that week.
Well, I guess it's good, though. I mean, to hear that, then you know that the stimulus is actually serving its purpose and stimulating the economy because you are seeing people ordering a lot of materials or a lot of new things that they didn't have. So whether they're spending it frivolously or they're being safe with it, a lot of people are outspending it, and it's stimulating the economy, which is exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I was joking this past week. Sometimes you just look at like the trends of what I'm selling. Product wise, I mean, I routinely sell a lot of like the ritual bath salts, but in the past week I joked that I think I'm like an unknowing arms dealer on both sides of some unknown witch war, because it's like I'm selling a lot of hexing material, hexing stuff, and then like a lot of uncrossing and protection stuff.
You're selling it to each side of the you're selling the weapons to one and the safety and protection to the other.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though. I mean, that's a good practice to have. I mean, I was reading a book recently. I forget which book it was. I read quite often, and they were saying, it was Jason Miller's protection spells. And he was talking about, back in the day, these adepts and these sorcerers who would have someone from the local town come to them to hex someone or curse someone, and then he would have the person who's hexed come to them to take it off, and it was getting to work both sides, not him specifically, but saying like shamans and things, that was common practice where they would curse one person in the town, and then that person would come and have to get it taken off, so they were playing both sides of the fence, which I'm sure was constant business.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like, because I mean, I sell through my website primarily because I have a lot more available on my website, which I usually like to stress versus I also sell on Etsy and Amazon Handmade. Because of Etsy and Amazon policy things, there's a lot of my stuff I can't sell on there. So
okay.
Like I can't sell most of my flying ointments. I can't sell on Etsy or I don't even bother on Amazon. Like the herbal smoke blends, I can't sell on either. Some of the herbal tinctures I can sell on Etsy. Most of them I can't, So
it's just easier to avoid it and just go through your website if possible. Because it's harder to try to remember what you can and can't and have to keep stock of it. And just, if you just keep it on one home platform where everything can be sold and then a few things here and there to get additional traction and buzz. But no, folks, if you're listening out there and you do pick up anything from Jennifer, go through her website, which we'll be talking about here in a little bit.
Yes, there's a lot more available and faster shipping options.
There you go. I like it. Well, why don't you tell us, I always start off kind of traditional with my show and ask people how it is that you got started as a left-handed path practitioner, or as a poison path practitioner, or just in general into the occult, because it doesn't mean you started out that way. Why don't you give us kind of a rewinding of what made you who you are today?
I've had a very weird life.
I think most of us did. That's what led us here.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, like, goes back to even things like in my early childhood, kind of one of my earliest beliefs as a child when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I believed in reincarnation. Well, I don't know who explains reincarnation to a 6-year-old girl in Roman Catholic school, but to me that was something that made sense at 6 years old. And just being kind of aware of the dream world and spiritual world, like just kind of born, I guess, naturally with some of that clairvoyancy and things like that. It's just something that kind of, waxed and waned throughout various periods of my life. And there were times where I was, practicing, at varied levels of casually. And then there was just a huge swath of time where I didn't practice at all. It was always there with me. It just kind of like I wasn't doing rituals or spells or working with any entities or anything like that. And I started getting back into it maybe about 2 years ago, I would say. And like throughout the course of my life, I always felt more drawn, like, because I mean, I'm 40, I'll be 46 in June. So it's like, back in the day, all we really had access to was kind of like Wicca stuff for the most part. And, but I always felt a draw to the darker side of things. And Wicca just never really, like, I have no problem with it or people who practice it. It just didn't fit for me. And I just always kind of felt myself drawn to the darker side of things, and just kind of went full in with it about a little over a year ago, I think. I just kind of embraced it. And the poison path, actually, they both kind of came along around similar time frames, about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. Time has become very nebulous over the past year, so
it really has. It's a complete blur of when did this happen, when did that? I don't know. It's just
200 years ago in January this year.
That's it.
Yes.
No, that's interesting. I mean, something we talked about on the show numerous times is I think most of us had something that kind of turned us onto the path at an early age. Most of us had some type of experience at an early age of paranormal activity or of clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, whatever it might be, that really kind of threw us for a tailspin into a world that we didn't know existed but now are experiencing. And I think it kind of led us onto our path. So it's always interesting to hear that one thing that connects almost all of us. I mean, not everybody, but I would say 95% of practitioners as children were experiencing some type of activity.
Yeah, it's just I was always able to sense things or have, premonitions or prophetic dreams, or kind of slip off into the trance state and, astral travel without knowing that that's what I was doing.
That's awesome, though. That's a nice thing to slip into without realizing you're doing it.
Yeah.
Now, I have some people here. We got Pete, we got Scarlett, we got Logan all dropping in so far in comments saying hello. So what's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in. I also see several comments and things floating in on the Facebook as well. So shout out to everyone listening in right now, including one of our sponsors who just put up a post for you, which is Goetic Impressions. Much love to those guys for everything that they've done, obviously for both of us and with both of us. We have D.H. Thorne putting up a post as well. Much love to him. So you got quite a little collective already jumping in, which is nice.
Yeah, I've been working with Goetic Impressions. We released we're collaborating on doing these sort of, I just call them the demon collections and stuff like that. I'll be releasing the Belial and King Paimon ones, hopefully within the next couple of days, or blur of time that comprises the next couple days. But we have ones for Lucifer, Lilith, Asmodeus, Baal, Azazel, and Satan so far. So it's been really great working with them. They're actually local to me, so we used to do some of the same physical events in the before times and stuff like that. And we often joke that with going back to the shipping time thing, we're like, Why does it routinely take 2.5 weeks to get something from New Jersey to Pennsylvania? We could have walked it there.
Exactly. No, that's pretty wild that you guys were close to one another, or are close to one another as well. That makes it easy to be able to do these collections that you're doing together. And honestly, they look beautiful. I've seen them. I was really happy to see the two of you guys. I shouldn't say two because they have two people on their end, but the two sides. Kind of collaborate and bring these wonderful packages together for the Daemon or Demon collection. I think that you guys are going to continue to get a lot of love on that.
Yeah, they're really starting to take traction now, and looking at things kind of like for the future, because kind of looking at the spectrum of, because a lot of the products that I started developing where I combined, I kind of created my own little niche of the poison left-hand path, where I started, because I was making flying ointments and some of that stuff. And then I was like, I wonder, as I was starting to work with different entities, I'm like, maybe, because I'm, as an herbalist, I'm fascinated with like the botanical and, like crystals and all that, like correspondences with each one. And, I started thinking like, maybe this would make it easier to work with them if I had like a Lilith flying ointment or a Lucifer one and stuff. I started experimenting with it. I did find that definitely helped open up those pathways to working with those particular entities if you're new to it, or it enhances it. Because even people who, work with them all the time, if you want to, not everyone is attuned to doing astral travel or deep meditation or things like that. And I find that they really help, especially as someone who has ADHD, because my brain does not STFU ever. I find it kind of gets me in the right state for that.
It's phenomenal, honestly. And it's one thing that I think a lot of the practitioners out there don't get involved with. They don't know much of. They've skipped around it. It's an area that I find has its own niche following. But there are a lot of people missing out on the components and properties of what it can do, not only for you spiritually and mentally, but what it can do for you ritually. And I find it to be a heavy component and helper within ritual that, you can be hitting it the exact same way throughout your rituals, incantations, and whenever you go to your meditation part of the ritual and you're really just focusing with that scrying vision on the candles or on the sigil, and you lock in, things will start to happen that weren't happening before, or at least not as easily happening. And it opens doorways. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. So for folks listening out there, I'm not telling you to do this because it's something you need to do responsibly and think about, but it is a major helper to your work, or at least most of our works. It can be used in any type of workings. I just love using it in devil work. And it does amazing things for you. So, kudos to you for your products and what it is that you do. I am a big fan of the Poisonous Path. I'm a big fan of the history behind it and the Witch's Sabbath and, everyone getting together and dancing with the devil and the astral travel. And when you start to read into the history of it all, I've always, since a kid, found it fascinating. The first time I ever read about it, my local library, which was a half a block from my childhood home growing up, had this back section of these old books that no one ever looked at anymore. And I would ask to go back there. And as a young kid, I'm talking, 10 years old, going back and started looking through these ancient books. And one of the ones I found was a book on witchcraft and black magic. And I don't even honestly remember what the name of it was. I remember, and I'm not here trying to purge myself, people, but I took that book, and I think I actually did eventually return it. It was like 7 years later. I just kind of snuck it back into the shelves. But I kept it for a good chunk of my childhood and read from it, learned from it. And one of the heavy sections that it talked about was the using of poisonous plants to enhance your mind and enhance your connection with Satan and the devil. And it fascinated me. And to be honest with you, I think... and this is the first time I've ever told another human being this, I think that would have been probably the start of my left-hand path, because I have been involved with it forever. I was always into Satanism. I was always into a lot of things, but thinking about it now, and it's funny that I'm just recollecting that, is that book fascinated me when I was just a child, and for some reason I just kept being drawn back to it.
Yeah.
And, thinking of that now, I think that would have truly been what sparked my entire occultist career.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting, like, sometimes, especially with working with these different entities, is that, like, they'll point back to things in my life. They're like, yeah, that was us.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I found an old dream journal from, like, I don't know, maybe when I was in, like, high school or early college and stuff. I'm like, well, by the description there, that sounds like Abaddon visited me.
No,
Didn't
that's
know who
awesome.
Abaddon was, but, and just various things they'll point back to, kind of like something like they're just random things or experiences I had that aren't like, not like a huge life experience or anything, but just something like, oh yeah, you remember that dream you had? Yeah, that was us. Or this thing, that was us.
It is, the hindsight is very funny. In fact, I actually wrote a list last year. I was working on a personal project of mine, and I started, it was the Connecting Dot Project is what I called it. And I was connecting dots from childhood till now of different things that weren't understood at the time, but now have come into full focus.
Yeah.
And the spider web that it had weaved was amazing. I mean, there were so many moments throughout my life that were uniquely, individually amazing themselves, but didn't necessarily correlate to anything else until they did. And then I'm like, wow. When I had audio tapes, and I've tried to find them, I think a lot of them got ruined in storage, but I do still have some that I have to go through. I mean, these audio tapes are cassette tapes, and they're hours of my playing guitar, of me singing, of me rapping, of me doing like child rituals when I was in my early teens, and just a lot of things. But I had a couple different sections of these audio tapes where it was just me alone in my room at night, and you would hear several whispers of other voices talking. And at the time, I always had thought that those were just ghosts because my house was heavily haunted. That house still is. And years later, as you kind of said, through spiritual invocation and evocation workings that I have done, I had called upon certain demonic forces that once I worked with them said, that was us. We were the ones talking to you back then. We've been with you a long time.
Yeah, because one of the ones when I started working with Lucifer, like, I mean, this goes back to when I was probably, this would be like maybe when I first really started getting into like practicing witchcraft, and like maybe like 1994. Even though I kind of was dabbling all along, and it was always on my mind, and like I always had this vision, and it was something that was this source of comfort. It was like this just entity that would be behind me and that would wrap their wings around me, and it was so like I was so protected and so comforted by this. And when I started working with Lucifer, and he was just going, yeah, that was me.
That's
I'm
great.
I knew it.
It's great when you get that clarification.
Like, Lucifer, he's so schmoopy sometimes,
But when you have that moment, that aha, it's just such an amazing moment in one's life that you're like, wow.
I never knew what it was, but it was something that was always with me back then. That was a source of comfort and, protection.
That makes sense. He's a very strong protector, and I think that was kind of where I was at. Is I had a few friends that I let hear these audio tapes, and I think they thought I was batshit crazy because they would hear me in a room humming a song, and as I'm humming, you could hear these other voices in the background whispering. So they obviously knew it wasn't me. And this was back in the days before we had any way of manipulating the sound with programs and things. And then sometimes I would respond to them and answer back, and then they would answer to me. And people were like, dude, who are you talking to? And I'm like, I don't know who it is, but they're always there. And
yeah, that's especially something that's been happening to me recently too.
Awesome.
It's sort of like, right now, like when I go to do ritual, I don't feel like I really have to do this, like really a fancy, like evocation, summoning, anything. And it's not because I'm being lazy or anything. It's just kind of, they're always there.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think it's been said in other books, but I know a big practitioner, big named practitioner that mentions that a lot in his books would be E.A. Coetting, as far as him saying that once you reach a certain level of adepthood, that you really don't need to perform the rituals in full, because all you need to do is really think about it and start to begin, and it happens and unfolds before you.
Yeah, because even when I'm making products, sometimes, like, I was joking the one time I was making, I think it was when I was making the King Paimon loose incense. I'm like, I feel like this needs something. I'm like, Paimon? Well, Paimon, the only times I've worked with him was just that he came to me and was like, I would like a product line of my own, please. Like,
he's one that likes to come forward easily for people. He likes to work with practitioners. Yeah. Some are easier than others, but I mean, he enjoys just being there and working with you. Some you have to kind of coax into it. I
was like, I don't know, this incense needs something. And I just hear him in the background. He's like, I was like, what do you want? And he's like, I want the expensive stuff. I'm a king after all, or something.
That's great.
Like that. I'm like,
it's the connections. It's amazing when you have them, and like I said, those aha moments truly bring it together. And like I said, that was wild. But it's strange that I had forgotten all about the Book of Witchcraft, with the Poison Path sections in it until us talking tonight. So that's another thing I got to connect on my spider web of connecting the dots.
There's a weird, like, a bunch of spider webs like that for me too. Like in completely unrelated aspects of my life. Like, I used to be really big. I don't know if you were familiar with Second Life, sort of like the Virtual Worlds platform back in the early mid 2000s. It's had its hype cycle and stuff.
Okay, yeah, I'm not.
But we were my ex-husband and I were early adopters in it and stuff. And I had a business in there called Deadly Nightshade, where I made, like, avatar clothing and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Which Deadly Nightshade is also what Belladonna is. And now I have a business called Belladonna's Botanicals.
Exactly. Yeah, very interesting that it kind of came full circle.
Or like, when I played World of Warcraft, you have, like, the little, like, your specialties that you do. I was alchemy and herbalism.
Okay.
And I was a mage.
Good things to be involved in.
And it's just like, it's those little things, those little weird influences and nuances that you don't think about, but that I'm like, it's funny. I'm like, I used to make potions and pick herbs all day in World of Warcraft, and now I'm kind of like, maybe that was like something telling me something,
I'm sure it was. I mean, like I said, there's little subtle hints that happen throughout our lives.
I feel like some of them they're tapping their theoretical timeless watches, going, "We've been waiting."
Yeah, like, we've been giving you sign after sign. Damn, it took you 15 years,
Yeah.
But we have a comment here from a listener. It says, I agree with this entirely. The Groundhog Day concept, and there are small traces or signs that we carry while everything else has become consumed by the abysmal barrier between variations of the same life, and that we continue to repeat. To what Vatza said, I believe perhaps it is a choice to stay or leave, but perhaps we have to resonate willingly with that path. I don't know. So I think that's going back to the reincarnation / some of the other things we were talking about. So, I think that there are patterns. I'm a firm believer that we've been here many, many more lives than what this current one is. So I do think that there are subtle moments within this life that also connect to past lives that we can pick up from. I think tapping into Gnosis sometimes is not just being taught to us from outward forces like daemons or, different spirits. I think that sometimes we are able to tap into past lives of ourselves, and we end up remembering chunks of what we already knew. And I think for a lot of people hearing that, they're like, that's odd. But I'm like, no, I believe that sometimes we just simply remember. And it seems new to us. We're like, wow, I did this ritual, and over a week's time, I just got all these downloads of amazing information. Well, maybe that's true, and that does happen. But maybe all that happened is you opened the gate to clarity of what you already have known.
Absolutely. And funny enough, on the past life regression and synchronicity thing, after we're done here, I'm doing a past life regression session with Tiala Petrova, because I just haven't had one in years, and like I've had some messages from Lilith and Lucifer, and I'm like, I need to explore this more, but I'm having like a little bit of a blockage myself in getting there. So but yeah, absolutely. Like one of the things, like I feel like it's like, even though I wasn't practicing really regularly until about 2 years ago, it's like there were all these little things that were just pushing me, and like things that would come in dreams, and all this stuff. And like I guess this was about 2015. I ended up with the double whammy of recovering from surgery and having the flu at the same time. So I was having some really crazy fever dreams, along with the, happy fun pills they gave me after that.
Nice mix.
And in one of the dreams, I traveled to like the demonic underworld. And in that dream, I was told that I was like, what was it? A ruling class demon. I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting, because I never worked with demons before or anything. So I was just kind of like, all right. And then fast forward, 5 years later, when I'm working with Lilith, she pointed back to that to me. And, all this stuff started, like all this gnosis and all these things started coming out. And it was just really fascinating. And, kind of following all the different strings of gnosis and revelations and just everything. Like, because the first time I worked with Lilith, I kind of was doing it on the astral realm, and kind of was like, well, is it cool if I work with you? I don't know how this works. Is it cool that I'm here? She's like, you've been here before. I was like, okay.
And that happens so much to us as we retrace steps of moments that we've already done in our past lives. And it's wild. And as you said, past life regression can be great. It can be horrible. It can be wild. It can cause all kinds of wild effects within your mind. I have only had one true moment of past life regression that I had during a very deep ritual working and meditation with angels. And
that was something I realized recently. Like, I remember talking to angels, it had the memory of being a very small child that I was talking to angels.
I'm still a firm believer, and I talk about it on my show all the time, and I have a lot of left-hand path people that are like, oh, how could you? I'm not one of those people. I believe in working with all spirits. I work with everything that I can, that I find benefit in working with, and I like to convene and conversate with everything if I find the need. But angels is still one that I work with quite heavily, aside with demons. I don't feel that there has to be the dogmatic approach that they're the good and bad. I feel that I've never brought religion into any of the workings that I've done with demons or with angels, and I've always had great results. But I did a past life regression, and it was wild. I seen myself from an aerial view, almost not as if I was the fly on the wall, but almost as if I was just the air. And I could just see in all directions like the all-seeing eye. Ooh. And there was a young boy, and he was playing in a courtyard, and I don't know what he was playing with. It was just some type of toy on the ground, and I was over top him and seeing him, and he stood up and he looked up into like the sky, almost like he knew I was there, but he didn't. He just kind of looked up, and as I looked at him, somehow I instantly knew that was me. And it's strange because any other time you'd see something like this, you'd be like, what kind of vision am I having right now? But this one, instantly, as soon as he looked up and I looked at him, I instantly knew that was myself. And what made this very interesting is this was a Middle Eastern young child. And I was like, wow, okay. And I watched him run along this stone courtyard, and you could tell that this was quite a ways in the past. And it was just phenomenal. It's the only true experience that I've ever had that I would consider past life regression. But I watched this, long past version of myself from another country, from another background and race, to who I am now. And it was mind blowing. When I came out of that meditation, I couldn't even believe it. Like, I was in shock for quite a while, and it was a very touching moment for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've had similar ones. Like, I used to have just like past life visions, even like as a child. Like there was this whole, like, I mean, it just kind of revealed itself over years to me. Even, starting when I was maybe like 6 or 7 or something like that. But I still remember those visions like crystal clear. Like I just had them right now.
I think that's common though. When you have that important of a moment and vision, you don't forget it.
Right. And one of the things that was interesting, because I'm also, I balance, it's like I balance the magical and metaphysical with, a healthy level of skepticism and also science and technology. And I saw an article recently, is looking at like the neuroscience aspect of things. And, it was an article about how there's like literal multiverses within within our minds.
Oh, absolutely. Doorways left and right.
Yeah. So it's sort of like, okay, well that, that's kind of like, that's a big thing, and I mean, when we talk about being able to astral projection or soul travel or, working in other, going into these other realms and things like that, or the underworld, or, it's definitely possible. And, the thing that I find the most fascinating is when you start comparing notes with people, is you realize you're getting similar messages and similar, like that particular entity will appear to people in like a similar rubric. Although, I mean, I often feel like with the different entities is that they appear to you based on your visual frame of reference and your lived experiences.
I think they do, and one of the ways that I have always
except for Belial just Belial's all over the place.
I look at it, one of the ways I've always kind of thought about it is, I don't believe that these are beings within just ourselves and they're not exterior. I don't believe in the atheistic satanic view of, it's all just in my own head and it's just me opening up doorways. But I also don't look at it fully as it's a tangible being. I look at it as a cross-reference between the two. And what I mean by that, and this actually goes to a post I made recently, which got me all kinds of shit, is I look at everything as frequency, which it is.
Absolutely.
So when you start looking at everything as frequency, whenever you tap into working with a spirit or entity and you attune to that frequency, it opens up an internal door in the mind, but they are also external. So what I mean by that is, say let's use Asmodeus for an example. 10 different people summon properly Asmodeus and they have 10 very similar experiences. There might be some differences between the overall appearance of it if they're summoning it to visual manifestation, but the reason that it's similar, the reason that there's similar experiences is because we all hold those doorways in our own brain. It's just most people's will never be opened. So when you attune to that frequency, you are summoning and working with an ancient current that has existed since the beginning of time, that specific vibration and frequency. But when you attune to it, that your mind is the door. The daemon or force that you're working with is the key, and the magical working that you're doing is the hand that now grabs the key and opens it. So whenever it opens that doorway, we have those similar experiences because they're all just similar doors in our minds, and when we open them, we have that similar experience. So for anybody listening out there, seen my one post recently about comparing Jesus to Lucifer, and I know a lot of people wanted to be in an uproar about it. What I was explaining with that post is with light bearers, with people who, throughout theologies and history have always been looked at as a light bearer. I'm not saying that they're the same being, though they could be, and I know a lot of people say that that's heresy, and how could I say that? But once again, every argument that someone gave me was a theological argument of text that they learned. I don't want to hear about the books that you read that dispel the books that someone else read, because at the end of the day, your books don't mean a fucking thing to me. What I'm trying to tell you is when you work with these spirits and open up doorways, learn for yourself the experience is that current can have multiple fractaled sides of that same frequency. So when you summon Lucifer, or you summon Prometheus, or you summon any type of spirit that's within that same frequency, they might be a few degrees off, but they're all still very similar. And that's just one theory, but that's what I was getting at with it. And a lot of people liked the post. I had some people that did not like it and got very upset. I had a few people that completely just cut me out of their life and said, fuck you, because of this post, I'll never speak to you again. And hey, that's fine, blow me. But, you know...
That's my thoughts, that's my sentiments, exactly.
Exactly. Here's the thing, is I'm nice to everybody that's nice to me. I have no ill will against anybody, but I mean, if a thought that I have is going to cause you to say fuck you and never talk to me again, then hey, you know, your loss, not mine. I'll continue on just the same. But that's what I was getting at with the sentiment of it. It was not saying that they are exactly the same person or being, because... You know,
they're energetic masks in a way.
Exactly. They are energetic masks. They are the masks of the deities that when you summon, they put on a different mask that's similarly the same. And I know a lot of people misunderstood the concept of my post. It could be taken in different contexts. That's what I was really meaning by it, folks. So that's why I think we do have similar experiences using different methods of summoning the same entity, because we're all tapping into the same current, which gives us the same flow.
Absolutely, I agree. You know, it's sort of, you know, I first started getting really into this. I was having a little bit of trouble, like, understanding, like, what's the difference between Lucifer and Satan? Because, you know, having gone to Catholic school, you know, Lucifer, Satan, you know, it's the same thing, you know, and kind of like understanding energetically. Like, some people think of Satan more as a title or a concept, or is Lucifer Satan? Is Beelzebub Satan? Is Shamyaza Satan? You know, is any of these, you know, what exactly is the Satan and stuff like that? And, you know, I just kind of look at it more in my workings as like an energetic mask of that energy, whether it be a, you know, a Beelzebub, a Lucifer, you know, Belial, any of them, is that it's not a specific, I don't feel like it's a specific thing. I think it's just a collective amalgamation of that infernal energy.
I think so. I mean, it's always hard to say, because there's some people that it is all one current that wears the different masks, that everything in the demonic is one thing. There is no Belial and Paimon. There's no different entities. They are all masked the same.
I think Belial will disagree on that.
Well, no, and I'm saying there's people that will believe that. I don't believe that necessarily whenever I say that there are different masks of the current. I believe that it's a massive water system, if we're using a comparison of water, and there's streams, there's rivers, there's oceans. They are all separately different bodies connected to the same source. And when you tap into them, you're tapping into different things. So it is the masks of the outcasts. But, you know, doesn't mean that they don't live. So I can never understand that it's all within myself. I'm not that inventive. But I also don't think that it's completely them all doing their own separate thing, not connected. They're all connected to themselves and also connected to us, and they unlock those doorways to past worlds and to other gnosis. So,
absolutely.
Good topic to think about. Like I said, you know, it's funny. Yeah, we just got a comment. Belial is an easy one. Haha. He will tell you straight up what you need to hear. Get up and look at your life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I went into working with Belial, like, kind of like, okay, I've heard the horror stories and you know, the shit your pants shadow work and stuff like that. And when I first started working with Belial, he's like, you've been path working for the past 10 years. You just didn't know it. Most people don't come to me with having done all that shadow work, because I had done a lot of stuff through, you know, my own, you know, having, you know, had issues with depression and anxiety and ADHD and CPTSD and stuff like that. I've done a shit ton of therapy over the past, you know, and stuff like that over, you know, the past, actually probably longer than 10 years now. And so I've done a lot of that shadow work, but, you know, obviously there were still things to work on. And, you know, little things here and there. But, I mean, even just the littlest thing was just, you know, life-changing and taught me, like, an entirely different perspective. Like, one of the things Belial said that really changed it is, like, you know, your greatest strength and your greatest weakness are the exact same thing. It's your need to love and be loved.
Yeah.
And I was like, Okay.
It's the polar opposites. It's a big thing in Hermeticism,
because
is
it's like
that
I
it's all
realized,
connected.
because I'm such an intense person energetically, is that I love so intensely that it depletes myself. And I
No,
had to
that makes sense.
learn to love myself the same way I loved others. And that's a lot of my workings with Lucifer, because, he's a big old self-love Care Bear.
Well, you know what? It goes back to one of the things in the Rider-Waite tarot deck that says that a man who can stand himself can stand anything. And I always loved that, because most of the battles that we face in life, most of the darkness and depression and sadness and sorrow, the trials and tribulations we face, is because we haven't truly accepted and loved ourselves. But once you learn to truly love yourself and be happy 100% with who you are, once you do that, there really is no barriers in life, because no matter the situation that you're thrown in, you will thrive in it, because at the end of the day, if it's just you alone in the darkness, you know that you're your biggest strength, and you know that you're okay being just by yourself. And that's a big thing. And so many people are like, I'm having a hard time in life, and I'm battling this, I'm battling depression, it's because you haven't learned to truly love yourself yet. And it's much easier said than done. But that is the big secret, guys, is magic will help you truly unlock the doorways in yourself to power, to accept yourself. And then it's the Forrest Gump effect, that you just happen to be at the right place at the right time for many great things. And it's weird. You just happen to turn the corner at the exact moment you needed to bump into something that leads you to your next path in life, your next triumph. It all starts to fall in place into your lap, because you put yourself in harmony to align with the frequencies of harmony.
Yeah, because I'd been working with Lucifer for almost a year before I did my first pact with Lucifer, and every single thing I needed to happen from that pact happened within 24 days.
Wow, that's great.
Sorry, my cat is now trying to join in. So for the fans of Corey is here giving me love.
There you go, folks. Corey is with us on the interview as well. I would ask Corey some questions, but I'm not sure if I would get much response.
He just wants love. Yeah, Corey's my big orange tabby cat who likes to make appearances. And right now he's rubbing his face on the microphone. So.
I can hear him. Well, hello, Corey.
Corey's always got to be here. He's like that.
That's another thing. I don't know about all practitioners, obviously, because there's going to be some that don't like cats, but I think cats resonate and notice magic practitioners, which have gone back in symbolism for the dawn of time. My wife,
my moon kitty is a witchy poo. She's just always all up in my stuff. Corey's just kind of a big dumb cat that means well. But yeah, I have a great series of photographs on my Facebook of cats sleeping on occult books.
Yeah, they love it. My wife has always said to me, we have 2 cats and 2 dogs, and she always says how the cats gravitate towards me. My one will never leave me alone. It climbs up on my shoulders and lays on me like I'm a tree, and I can walk around the house with it just laying on my neck. And it's been doing that for years and years, and I think there's reasons for that. They are always very interested in doing the ritual. They're tuned into a channel that most don't see, and I think cats do see and experience it. Which goes back to why the Egyptians kept cats around all the time, because they loved the magic.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Moon Kitty definitely loves the magic. Corey would ride around on my shoulders if he could. He's just a little chonky for it.
No, now is a good time for me to jump into our break. We're 52 minutes in, so let me pull up my sponsors here, and we'll go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a shout out. So if you're listening in right now, our first sponsor that we're going to talk about tonight is going to be James Hunter Ralston, who also goes by the Telemancer. James has been a member of the Order of the Voltex starting in 2008 and progressing through several degrees, and last serving as head of the Outer Order. The Order of the Voltec is an offshoot of a pylon of the Temple of Set, originated to study and practice several forms of the sorceress methods, centering on techniques used by Mexican and other Central American priests and magicians. Many of the techniques involved were popularized in the late 1970s and 80s by Carlos Castaneda. It says, over the decades since his first experiences with magic, his desire has grown into the creation and use of what other shamanic sorcerers term as power objects, talismans, amulets, totems, and other powerful objects. His interest expanded to the degree that he chose to become an apprentice of several Appalachia's premier craftspeople and learned the art of metalcraft to produce powerful objects for both himself and select patrons. He has been making talismanic metalworking for over 8 years. He works in silver, gold, and pewter mainly, but sometimes will work with other metals occasionally. He creates talismanic pendants, rings, altar pieces, and more, and almost exclusively made by custom commission. You can check him out at www.facebook.com, The Talismancer, followed by the number 1, and again that's facebook.com/The Talismancer, then the number 1. I am a big fan of James's work. He is an amazing metal worker. His rings and amulets and altar pieces, they're stunning, to say the least. He takes care of very minute details to bring to life exactly what you want, how you want. So if you have not seen his work, I ask that you check it out. If you have seen it and you've been thinking about picking up a piece from him, I suggest you do so. It will add a great resonance to your workings. It's something that is a power object. Just as Carlos Castaneda would say in all his workings with Don Juan, it is a power object. You carry those rings on you, those amulets on you, you use them in ritual, you charge and put your energy into it, and they carry that energy and resonance with them everywhere you go. Not only do I use those type of objects, but I also am a big believer in using malas. And my malas used for mantra carry a very heavy punch to them when I'm using ritual working. So pick up an object from him today and you will not be sorry. Secondly, we're going to talk about limitless liberation, and I'm going to talk about it from the point of view of their owner, Elena, and it says that limitless liberation was inspired by both Lucifer and Belial. Lucifer has been with me most of my life, as far back as I can remember. Belial and I started to work when I was going through a very difficult part of my life. He completely turned mine and my family's life around for the better in a very short period of time. In return, he asked me to create charger for him. He showed me the design, so I created the first charger for Belial, and Lucifer wanted one next. From there, I had spirits lining up with requests for magical items. Some are control freaks, others will just inspire. They all are so individually different, but every single item created has power within it. Each item operates on many levels. They operate as an anchor for the spirit you're working with, thus aiding easier connection between the two of you. They also operate like a power cell or battery, where they already come with an inherent energy to them, but they become stronger as you feed them and pull from them during ritual, as well as to strengthen your working. Limitless liberation continues to grow to honor the spirits we work with and build relationships with. And you can check out her work at etsy.com/shop/limitless liberation. And again, that is etsy.com/shop/limitless liberation. She also makes handcrafted, tailor-made items from start. They are beautiful. I love them. I love looking at the different things she comes up with because visually they're stunning. Very broad selection of colors, and she not only went from her what I call the pyramids of power, she calls charger. She not only went from the pyramids of power, but to different altar pieces, to crystal balls, to everything in between that she has now created that are just visually stunning. So if you haven't checked out her work, folks, please do so. Pick something up for the person you love or for yourself if you're a practitioner. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have my friends in Goetic Impressions. Goetic Impressions formed as a partnership between Ben, who is Frater Adamasto, and Sor Alara, with the intent to bring ritual-accurate magical tools to the public for affordable prices. One of the largest barriers to entry for new practitioners looking to experiment with the magic of the Western grimoires is how expensive and difficult to find real ritual tools are. They first launched with a Kickstarter to bring their Goetic medallions to life, and since have also expanded to an Enochian tool set, and most recently a satanic medallion and altar set, which is currently live on Kickstarter. With over 20 years of magical and occult experience across a range of traditions, Goetic Impressions is the place to find affordable, high-quality ritual items. You can check them out at goeticimpressions.com. Again, that is goeticimpressions.com. Not only will you see the things I just mentioned, they also have launched their new angelic talisman set, which is pulled specifically from the Heptameron grimoire that they have done amazing work on. I mean, honestly, it's phenomenal what they've recently released. The Satanic Medallion set's actually a little bit more aged at this point. This bio is a little bit older. I have some of that set actually right next to me to my left right now, including one of their altar cloths and other pieces. I stand behind all three of these companies, folks. I don't have people on my show and interview them unless I believe in their work. I don't sponsor or have someone sponsor me unless I believe in their work. I am a big person on working with people that I feel deserve to be worked with, and certainly are doing their part in the field. So any one of these three, if you are looking for great ritual tools and implements, check them out. You can't go wrong any which of the way. And right now, they got an amazing demon set, or demonic set going on with Jennifer and her company as far as some new sets that we talked about earlier. But why don't we jump back into that a little bit more? Can you tell us a little bit more about that partnering up and what people can expect out of that?
Yeah, so we started working maybe a couple months ago. It's been a little bit of a slow... Sorry, my cat just decided to run across the computer and hopefully did not disconnect us.
No, you're still good. I still got you. Good.
All right, well, yeah. I don't know what he did. But anyways, so we started working a few months ago on it, and now my cats are fighting. Because, of course, they're cats. The process has been a little slow, but that's mostly just because of the shipping from the USPS, as we discussed earlier. But, I was looking at, because I had a lot of, customers being like, oh, I like all your products, especially for the different demons and stuff like that you're doing. Have you thought about doing any, collections and stuff? And I started thinking a little bit more about, okay, well, I'd like to include some other things, but I can make candles. I'll do it about 3 to 4 times a year, but I really hate making candles when I'm not in the mood to make candles, which is why I don't really sell candles. So, kind of thinking about who would be great to collaborate with, especially with incorporating the sigils and stuff. So, I was looking at Goetic Impressions because I was familiar with them from doing it. So, I have several of their candles, and within eyeshot, I have the Lucifer altar cloth, the Lucifer medallion, I think a couple candle, maybe a Babylon candle over there somewhere. So, I was familiar with their work, and they're local, and I obviously like to support other, local businesses and small businesses that, work within the same kind of rubric that I do myself. And this was the first collaboration that I worked on, so I was really excited about it. And as I mentioned earlier, the Belial and King Paimon boxes will be dropping shortly as soon as I get everything done with that.
That's amazing. And I mean, not only did you take on this collaboration, which is pretty nice and I think is going to continue to grow, but if I think I seen correctly, you announced another collaboration coming up, I think, for a large amount of orders as well. Is that correct?
That's for, I'm going to be doing one of there's a million of them, the sort of witchy subscription boxes. So I'll have my spring and summer energy cleansing spray. I think it's Witchcraft Way, their witch box, in June, I believe. Okay.
No, you're going to be busy.
I've been contacted by so many different subscription box companies like that, not just because a lot of individual people like me, I've been trying to launch a subscriptions box service for over a year and a half now, just haven't gotten around to it yet. But Yeah, I mean, there's some of the larger ones. I'm like, guys, I need a little bit more advance notice than 3 weeks to get you 700 of something. So,
yeah, that's a hell of a lot to put together in a short amount of time.
Not even the putting together part of it; it's just getting the stuff to me.
That's true too.
You know,
lot of
the
material.
shipping delays. Yeah, because unless I could get it shipped UPS or FedEx, it's a crapshoot whether I'll get it or not.
No, makes sense.
You know, I mean, the thing I like because I've seen in other communities and things like that, between, you know, let's just say the witchy content creators and businesses is like, you know, there's a lot of, in other communities, I've seen a lot of competition and, oh, she's copying me, or, oh, they're copying my stuff, or, oh, you know, or, you know, people not wanting to support and embrace each other. But like, I don't see that in this community. I have, you know, within iShot, I have the Shemyaza and Astarte pyramids from Elena, from Limitless Liberations. I also have a Lucifer one on the way. I'm currently wearing the Talamancer Shemyaza amulet. So, you know, it's we're all supporting each other and things like that. And, you know, even like, I'll buy things from other people just... I recently decided that I'm tired of my own my own ritual bath salts and stuff like that. Because like whenever I'm making something, if I have a little bit extra left over, I use it. I'm like, I'm just tired of all these, you know. So sometimes I'll just buy stuff from other people, you know.
Well, I think it's important to, you know, you're supporting other practitioners out there. You are experiencing and trying out different things that's outside of your own current wheelhouse of what you make. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's actually important in magic. And this went on with a discussion that I had with some practitioners a few weeks back, that, you know, it is nice to make your own stuff, but a lot of practitioners think that you have to do it. They say, oh, you know, making everything from scratch is good to do. That has the most power. And yes and no, because it can, and you put a lot of heartfelt energy into it. But if you are not a specialist of making certain things that you need certain oils for certain consecrations. If you don't know how to make the oil properly and you do a shitty job making it, I would rather get it from someone else and not have put my passion into making it and have it done properly and it be potent than try to make it myself and think that that's going to amplify my ritual when I make it wrong. So I'm a big believer that if someone can do something you can't, or at least do it much better, that there's nothing wrong with getting certain pieces of your ritual wear from other practitioners to fill in the gaps so that you can focus just truly on the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, each crafter you're going to get their energy with it. Like I'm always blown away because people will constantly like, you know, your stuff comes like fully like, what do you do like ritually to, you know, charge and activate your stuff? I'm like, honestly, not a whole heck of a lot. You know, it's I'm not having some big elaborate, you know, 10-day ritual to make, you know, whatever oil I'm making today or whatever. And nor am I just throwing stuff in a jar and calling it an oil. You know, you're getting my natural energy and the spiritual energy of the spirits that I work with and things like that as well in there. And, you know, I think I was having a conversation. I forget what either it was on my channel or Maggie Moon's channel, but we both make, Maggie Moon and I, the Left Hand Path Witch, we both make, you know, some of the similar kinds of things. And we were just kind of both like, well, you know, she makes a Lucifer oil. I make a Lucifer oil. Our Lucifer oils are very different because they're based on our individual experiences and relationships with Lucifer, and then our energetics on top of it and how we interpret, you know, those things. Like for me, working with Lucifer, always, there's roses involved.
Okay. Interesting.
So that's something that's going to come through in what I'm doing with my stuff with Lucifer, is that there's usually going to be roses involved, you know. And some of it, you know, there's, you know, I'll do a little bit of research on things to see like what, you know, according to the lore and whatnot, you know, what correspondences there are with these different entities and goddesses and things like that. And sometimes you find a lot, like, you know, there's a lot out there on like Hecate or the Morrigan or Lilith. But, you know, you start getting a little further down the line to like Shemyaza, there was nothing. How did I create a line of products for Shemyaza? I just channeled Shemyaza and let him, you know, loosen my herbs and you know, essential oils. I'm like, just pick what you like.
That's great. I mean, you have to let them speak to you on making things, especially ones that are not common. As you said, Hecatian oil and things like that are a little bit more, prevalent, which is actually something I need to pick up for an upcoming ritual. I need some Hecate oil, so I might be hitting you up for that. But like for the ones, like you said, Shemyaza is not something you're going to hear too commonly as far as having his own oil for ritual consecration. Another one, which I haven't seen anywhere, and I could be wrong on, so correct me, but I would love to see a Pazuzu oil.
I'm actually working on one. It's on the big list, infinite big list of things to do. Because I haven't. I think maybe the Luciferian Apotheca might have like a Pazuzu oil and incense. I'm just not sure what's in it.
Okay.
But I think that's the only place I may have seen that.
Yeah, because I think that would be great. I love working with Pazuzu. A very powerful, very strong force, very protective of those who work with him, and I would love to amplify my offerings and my ritual tools with something consecrated specifically for his intent and purpose.
Pazuzu's on the big list of things to do.
Awesome. Well, I'll be keeping an eye out for that one, certainly, when the time comes.
Yeah, I've always got an infinite list of things to do. And then, like you were saying, with, when you were reading, Elena's thing about the spirits coming to her with all sorts of requests, I'm like, oh God, yeah, It's like, all right, I called forth a meeting of the greater wealth demons, and now I have a whole list of things I need to make.
Well, it's funny because a lot of people that don't understand or haven't had these type of experiences, even practitioners who summon, there's different classifications of people who have spiritual influence and contact. There's some that only will experience something if they are going through the detailed workings of a ceremonial ritual. There are others who have it on a daily basis where you are influenced and have these workings with them while making your product. And it goes back to what you said, is you don't have to go deeply into a ritual to make it powerfully charged, but you're also not just throwing it in a bottle. And the reason being is just like a great chef. Chef and cooking is magic. When they're in the kitchen and their passion is going into their cooking and it comes out beautiful and it's an amazing dish, it's because they are so natural in the kitchen at what they're doing that it comes to life. And it's the same thing for you and for other makers like Elena and things like that, because when you're in your shop and you're making your ingredients or you're making your product, it flows out your fingertips so naturally that it automatically is inherited with that power. You don't have to do a 5-hour ceremonial practitioner ceremony. You don't have to go in depth or consecrate it over a 10-day period, like you said, under certain elements of the moon. It just comes about.
At the same time, if that's something that makes sense for you to do in your practice and the way that you do things, but by all means, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just sometimes I'm like, with the volume in which I have to make things, like I can't do a 10-day, consecration ritual for a Lilith oil.
No, I should take that back step, folks, and say there is nothing wrong with that. I've got people out there listening right there. They're like, fuck this guy. That's my practice. No, there's nothing wrong with doing very lengthy rituals. In fact, if you are consecrating something over an entire moon phase, over an entire month, and doing it daily or nightly, your tools are going to be supercharged. I've met some practitioners who charge their tools, their daggers or their athames and things over certain moon phases, and they've done amazing things with it that don't even make sense to the mind.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. There's certain things you can do, but yes, some people, and I'm not one of them, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not one of them that it just flows out of my fingertips like it does for you guys when you're creating, at least not in this regard.
Right, and some people work in on the planetary phases. Like, okay, it's like, I'm going to make my money magic stuff in like the Jupiter hour of the day, or I'm going to do my love magic stuff when it's, Venus hour, stuff like that. So, everyone has different ways of doing things, which I think is great, It
is. I got kind of lazy over the years. I started out with that. I started out originally with more satanic practices, and then I moved on to Goetic practices of following the Keys of Solomon, and that was very heavily derived off of making pentacles, certain hours and moon phases on certain days under certain restrictions. And it was fun because back then I didn't have a lot going on. I didn't work like I do now. And I was like, you know what? I can spend 20 hours cutting a fucking limb from a tree with one swipe of the dagger during this crescent moon, and do all these things that were like, I spent 20 hours on this wand. I don't have the time to do that any longer. And I've simplified my methods down where I get just as powerful results now without the practice, but there's nothing wrong with the practice. I think that is what's fun about magic, is there's a million different routes to lead you to the top of the mountain, and every single one of them has a beautiful view.
Exactly. Like I always, the way I always describe like the left-hand path, I'm like, it's the choose your own adventure of magic and witchcraft.
It is 100%.
It's however you want to do it. That's cool. You want to incorporate, something from, this, that, and the other thing, and 12 different pantheons, or angels, demons, aliens, cool. Go for it.
Yeah, there really isn't. And I think, and like you said, for the most part, a lot of people in this community want to have each other's back. But on the opposite end of that token, there are a lot of people who try to shoot each other down. And it's one thing I've noticed heavily, when you have people awakening, when you have people opening those locked doorways that we talked about, and they start to experience power, they start to experience gnosis and these amazing revelations. One of the things talked about in the Golden Dawn is a lot of times when you start out in magic, you should have someone clinically diagnose your mind if you are mentally stable. And I know that 99% of the people who do magic never has actually had a mental evaluation, but it's something that they mention in the Golden Dawn. And the reason for that is inflated ego happens quickly for people, and a lot of people can't handle the power and the presence that comes with it. And a lot of people start to shoot down other people because they feel that I am the end-all gnosis knower, knowledge seeker.
You're doing it wrong. Yeah,
you're doing it wrong, or this is not the way it is. Or see, even going back to my post with the Lucifer and Jesus thing, if I wanna fucking pray to Jesus one day and then do satanic blood rituals the next day, if that's my choice, fuck off and let me do it, because it's my choice to do it.
You're doing you. And
I'm doing me.
I'm like, you do you.
And that's it.
I don't care. It's sort of like you don't have to be here with me doing what I do and how I do it. So why are people feeling the need to like overcorrect you on, well, actually, let me tell you how you're wrong.
And that's it. And here's the thing, folks. I'm by no means follow any Christian, practices whatsoever. So that was just an example. I'm heavily satanic, but
but I find like the whole thing with like, I've gotten more into learning. Like, I think I've learned more about, sort of the Christian mythology and stuff, like from the Book of Enoch and look at the Enochian aspect of things that I ever did when I was in freaking Catholic school. I'm like, dude, why did they teach us the cool shit?
Yeah, they did. They did kind of eliminate all the cool stuff and taught us all the kind of the boring shit.
I'm like, I read the Book of Revelations. I'm like, well, this one's cool. The rest of this book sucks.
Yeah, you're teaching us about burning bushes. You're not telling us about the Nephilim. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know about the giants made from lust children of the angels. I want to hear about this crazy shit.
There's some cool stuff there, and I'm like, man, let me go and yell at my Catholic school for leaving out the good stuff.
And that's the funny thing. I went to Catholic school myself, and it's so funny that people automatically, you can bring in Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, you can bring in Jainism and Judaism. You can bring in all these different religions. But when people really start to get their feathers ruffled is when you bring in Christianity. And it's funny to me. I understand why. I understand that they are the evil empire who has really fucked up a lot of practices and done a lot of evil over the years with their theology. I get that. But at the same time, I use a lot of Christian metaphors and things when I do certain posts and things, because it's the most widely known to most people, and I love the stories that we're told. Yes, it doesn't mean that I follow Christianity or Catholicism, but I find the Bible absolutely fascinating.
Like, I had this really profound experience recently when in my underworld workings with the Virgin Mary, and I was like, wait, what? because I've been doing some work with like the Morgan and Hecate and Arachne, and like I've started to feel a little bit of the Santisima Muerte current coming up. I haven't really done a lot of work with her, but it was like the Santisima Muerte and the Virgin Mary. It's like if you imagine the statue with like one side is the Santisima Muerte and the other side is what you would see as like the Virgin Mary. And like the stuff she was saying, she was like, I gave birth to death. She was just talking like, I'm like, first of all, why is the Virgin Mary in the underworld? She's supposed to have ascended to, the heavens and whatnot. And, she was talking like about, her son was born to die and all the death that has happened because of his life.
Yeah. I mean,
and I was just like, whoa, like, first of all, I was like, but wait, why are you in the underworld? Kind of like, and she was sort of like, yeah, God's not God anymore. I left heaven, that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, what do I do? I'm like, this just blows my mind, looking back at, my Catholic education and stuff like that. Like, I never had any experiences with the Virgin Mary when I was, going to church and Sunday school and all that stuff, and it's like here, 30 some years later, there's the Virgin Mary in the underworld. In this whole weird, left-hand path thing.
The thing with it is almost like that Jesus post I made is it doesn't necessarily mean they're the same beings, but you can put a heavy similarity between Hecate, between Mother Mary, between Lilith, between a lot of these powerful feminine figures of theology and religion, and someone can pray to Mother Mary and have miracles happen. Someone can pray or work with Hecate and have miracles happen. Lilith, have miracles happen. And that is the point of that post the other day, was that one man's Jesus is another man's Lucifer. One man's Lucifer is another man's Jesus. It works the same way. Is sometimes tapping into those currents produces results because your will and intention, your belief behind similar characters produce similar results, even though the characters themselves might be far off from one another.
Yeah, so, I actually looking over, because I converted my bedroom, because I have spatial issues with running a business in my house, so I have my dark goddess temple as my bedroom. And I do actually have a Virgin Mary statue on it, along with Lilith, Astarte, Hecate, Medusa, and everyone else, And it was actually really funny when I was first setting it up, and like I thought this was the most ridiculous thing ever until I told other people, like, yeah, we did the same thing. It was like I'm setting up the Dark Goddess altar, and I just feel that little tap on my shoulder, Lucifer going, "You forgot someone." I was like, really, Lucifer, you're going to make me make an altar to myself? This is the most vain, like, egotistical stuff. Okay, fine.
But at the same time, it makes sense, though. You should have one to yourself, because at the end of the day, what do you strive for?
Love, and, it's not like worshiping myself and my ego and narcissism or anything like that. It's the self-love. And I think a lot of times with people who are narcissistic, they're overcompensating for the fact they don't have self-love.
Yeah. I mean, and like we said earlier, the self-love literally opens the doors to everything else, and you should strive to put yourself up there next to him. I don't believe in the Goetic side anymore of beating down entities and controlling them and you being above them. I believe that you should strive to be on the same level as them, and I am a Hecatean sorcerer. I work every single day with Hecate, and I can tell you that through my workings, what I have strived for and what she has taught me is to step up to the plate and be more like her. And every single day I strive to be more and more like her, more than I was the day before. And that's when the power starts, because they will always be someone you look up to, or should look up to. Some people don't feel that way. But you should eventually hope to reach their status. That's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have to love yourself, because it's like, even in like relationships and stuff like that, it's like, if you don't love yourself, you're like, I always felt like an emotional black hole, that it was like, like I had like it was just overcompensating in a way. Like everyone had to love me to fill the void of how I didn't love myself.
Yeah. No, and that's what we do. You always fill the void. My wife, when she met me many years ago, I told her at the time, and I told other people, I was happy with life. I wasn't, unhappy. And she says, Garrett, yes, you were. When I met you, you were partying constantly. You were doing all kinds of different drugs. You were thinking you were happy, and all you were doing was filling the void of the emptiness that you had. And I didn't look at it that way at the time. I truly felt in that mind frame like, no, I loved life and thought I had a great life and was happy, and I met her and it just became all that much better. But what she taught me was, no, I was filling the emptiness because I never took the time back then to do the shadow work, to truly look at myself and say, what the hell, man? You have so much to learn and so much to grow from. And then I started doing that shadow work, and the transformation is astounding. I mean, if you looked at me back then to now, I would not even seem like the same human being. I mean, it's 100% transformed.
I'm not the same person I was a year ago. That's for sure.
It's amazing how rapidly it changes, right?
Yeah. I mean, especially on this path, like you just become like, literally you become your own God, in a way. And it's just that path to ascension and enlightenment and stuff. And it's like, I don't worship Satan or Lucifer or Lilith or anything. I work with them. Yeah. Because in a way when you're working with them, you become equals with them.
Well, on a quick side note, you said about becoming, your own God or becoming a living God. Shout out to Matthew Lawrence. EA Co-Editing just shared our post tonight of the show, so thank you, EA. Appreciate that as well, brother. Good segue into a shout out to him, as you just said his tagline.
Of course, yes.
Now, looking at the time, we have a few minutes left. Is there any upcoming projects that you think we should know about? Anything you want us to check out? Anybody you would like to thank? Pretty much any last statements.
Well, thanking people would take me literally, probably an hour in of itself. But, I'd like to, obviously thank EA Co-Editing and, all the folks at Bog and, I work with so many amazing people, every day I feel so much love from this community, especially over the past year and stuff like that. Because, I live alone. It's been a really hard year to live alone. And, I don't think I would have survived without the people in this community.
No, that's great. Honestly, it has been a difficult year, so having the right people in your corner has definitely helped.
Yeah, and, just how much people love and support each other, when you're going through good times or hard times. And, it's, I have a immense amount of love and gratitude. And, often people will find me in the middle of the night, like sending them little, "You're awesome" messages. Thank you for, whether you did like a tarot reading for me or, just listen to me, scream into the void about something or whatever. It's just, it's a really, I always joke. I'm like, there is way more love and light in the black magic community than there is in the actual love and light community.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of really strong characters that back up and help one another in the left-hand path, and it's a beautiful thing. And like I said, there's a lot of strange, fucked up cats out there too.
You got them everywhere.
You have them everywhere, and that's kind of expected when you start to deal with this type of practices. But for the most part, everyone that I have come across has supported the show, has supported my workings, my posts, my writings, and a lot of the people that I deal with, I see them getting supported heavily, and it always means a lot. For instance, like we just said again, EA Co-Editing just actually typed into the chat system here of our radio show and said, "What's up, fam? What's up, brother? Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad you got to hear the show. I only got a few episodes left, but I was hoping at one point to get you on or at least have you hear it, so thank you for tuning in tonight." He says, "I'm working in the background around the clock right now." I'm sure, man. You're always staying busy. You guys produce a lot of great content, so... but no, it's been a great ride for myself. It's bittersweet to say that it's probably coming to an end, but it's been fun to be able to pick brains brains of people like yourself and all these other great practitioners and authors and occultists, because for many, many years, this has always been a solitary practice of mine. Since I was 15 years old, I began doing ceremonial ritual by myself. And, you fast forward 17, 18 years later, and it's been a wild ride, and it's been fun. And I really appreciate everyone coming on and being a part of it.
Yeah. And I mean, I love the way the community supports, each other. And, it's like, I kind of look at that pay it forward kind of thing. It's like, if you've got, I try to buy things and support people's, whether they do readings or rituals or authors or whatever, it's just because those are the people that help me build my business and my community. And, I'm not just here to take and leech off the, do my own thing and then be that as it may, it's just, we're all working together here on this path. And I don't know. I'm getting the Lucifer, I love you guys.
Well, thank you, everybody, obviously, for who has supported Jennifer and her workings over the years, my workings over the years. I don't know what's next for myself. Maybe, like I said, I'll be back with a season 2 of this great show. We have 3 more left after tonight. And talking about that, my next 3 upcoming guests, I will go ahead and spit them off for you. In 2 weeks, which would make the date, now let's take a look here, it would make the date the 22nd of April. We have a cat by the name of Michael Herring, which I've been talking about this one for weeks because I'm just truly baffled by what this gentleman's going to talk to me about. He goes by the Enlightened One Doesn't Blink an Eye, or the Man Who Doesn't Blink. And when I say that, he literally told me in conversation he hasn't blinked in years. And he says that blinking is actually a movement of your eyes that is not needed. It's more something we're taught that we don't actually need to do. And he says it goes into much deeper spiritual workings and things. So I'm very curious to hear what it is he has to say and teach. I've seen him make some very enlightening posts. That'll be on April 22nd. On May 6th, we have, I haven't confirmed it yet, but it should be on May 6th, and I hope I say her name correct. It's Sorsha, but her last name, Runarius, I'm not sure how to say it. She is an author for the Abyss Press, and has done some really good writing. She had a book on the Abyss itself that was very interesting, and I enjoyed reading. And then 2 weeks later, on May 20th, we have Logan Hellspine, which has been doing a lot of great workings in the community lately, has started a few different good pages. He's involved with a lot of practitioners out there, has a unique style of doing his magic that I've certainly resonated with, and I look forward to bring him on. And unless something changes, folks, that would be the last episode of this season and possibly of the show itself. But we're not sure what the future brings. We'll see what's happening. I have a lot of things to kind of move around and evaluate and see if time allows for this to continue. But either way, I want to thank you, Jennifer, for coming on tonight and sharing with us about your company. And again, tell us your website that we can check you out at.
It's belladonnasbotanicals.com.
And other than that, I would like to thank all the listeners tonight. If you've missed the show, I know EA said something about where am I at on this? I'm hearing commercials. You're probably listening from the beginning if you clicked on it. Let's see, he said, we'll have to replay later. Yeah, brother, please replay later. That'd be great. If you're tuning in right now and you're catching it halfway or almost at the end now, you can rewind back after it's done. Right now it's live, so it won't let you kind of jump back into it unless you download it. But as soon as it ends, you can jump back and stream it from the beginning, download it on your device for on the go. If you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see in the last couple episodes, you love the show and you don't want to see it go away, whatever it might be, hit me with a line at Knights of the Nephilim Facebook page. celestialoddities@gmail.com is my email, and you can let me know what you think of the show, anything else that you might want to see coming up. And other than that, thank you to my 3 sponsors for everything they do for the show. And lastly, one last time, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
All right, guys, well, we'll catch you next time on Knights of the Nephilim. This is Frater Crow signing out.